Basically, in English, the main difference with Spanish is that in Spanish, that letter is just associated to one sound. How do you make ese in Spanish? And nothing vibrates here. There's no vibration. It's called an alveolar, voiceless sound. Nothing happens here. However, and this is a very big difference, in English you have exactly the same sound as in Spanish, very, very good, but then you have the voiced counterpart. So this is the voiceless version, and this is the voiced one. In order to know how to make this particular voiced sound, you only have to remember what some students might do when they want to annoy the teacher and they want to pretend there's a fly in the classroom. What do they do? And it's exactly the same sound you're making when you do this, but voiced. Can you try it for me? Can you feel the vibration in your throats? Yeah? If you can find the difference between both of them, that's it. We can go home. Okay? We're going to try and see when you can use one or you should use one or the other. For some cases, for very important cases, there are rules. And if you learn the rule, that's it. Some other cases, it's just because. Okay? But anyway, at least we will try to apply the rule. Now, I'm going to ask you to do this individually. We have what we call minimal pairs. We have words that are pronounced exactly the same except for one sound. In this case, the difference is going to be this particular sound. For example, how do you pronounce this one? Sip. Sip. Everybody knows what to take a sip, for example, is you drink just a little, yeah, to sip in your drink or whatever. So you sip, or you zip, zip, zip. Like a sip when you have to, for a bag, for example, or a zip code in the US, or whatever. Okay. So sip, zip, sip, zip. Okay. Try and exaggerate it now if you want. Maybe in real life it's not that exaggerated, but now try and exaggerate it to see the difference. Okay? So, individually or in pairs, you decide, you can try and make the contrast between these two. Okay? The difference is going to be all the time the same. Okay? If you say something like, he plays every day, he plays every day, of course, you have this here, and because you have a vowel, this context is really, really voiced. He plays every day. He plays. The trick is not to make a very strong s. No. The key is to make it voiced. As what is happening to her phone. We're going to tackle what happens when a word begins with an S. Because for Spanish people that might be a bit complicated. And probably that's one of the signs that people can tell that we're Spanish from that particular initial S. The main problem is that the name of a country starts with an S. And many people say they are from Spain. Yeah, come on, have you heard it? Yeah? Where are you from? I am from Spain. Or, what nationality are you? I'm Spanish. No, obviously not. Yeah? Okay. So, when you have an S, in 97% of cases, the S at the beginning of a word is going to be s, just like that. A plain s sound. no vowel before in this case, okay? But just a plain, ordinary s sound. You have small exceptions, such as, for example, sure. Can you come here? Sure, which is the sh sound. Or, for example, the word sugar, sure. But these are very few exceptions. 97% more or less cases, initial S, okay? They're in your handouts and they're here. You have some words, I haven't given you the spelling, and I don't really want you to concentrate on spelling now. Try and pronounce the words you have in here. I think they're easy to understand, bro. But anyway, try and guess. Just try and read the sounds. Basically, that's what I want you to do. Read the sounds. And if you guess what word it is, no, read the sounds. Because if you think of spelling, you will start pronouncing it the way you would pronounce it. No, read the sounds. Probably there's only one which might be a bit more tricky perhaps to read, which might be this one. Stranger, yeah, because you have the strange sound here. But all others, for example, so we have spring, street, square, spell, stand, start, stranger, stress, sleep, school, stop. Sentences. Okay, again, I think you have a sentences in your handouts. Yeah? Okay, so can you take turns in pairs to read these sentences? To do, or when I try to explain that, I don't know if it's going to help you, but this is the way I perceive things. You have to imagine, you have to pretend that this sound does not belong. You have two possibilities. Option number one, imagine this sound does not belong to this word, but belongs to the previous word. Imagine you're saying Steve's. Steve speaks. If you do that, there's no room for the or something. Steve speaks. Steve speaks. If you do them together, you can't notice the difference. Yeah, that's option number one. Option number two. You have to pretend it's just one word, as if you were speaking German, and say it all together. Steve speaks. Steve speaks. So you can either just join the S to the end of a previous word, or put it all together. Steve speaks. Up to you. Maybe there are better examples, and you will see in a minute, okay? But whenever you find... You notice that you're going to say the sound is speaks. No, either split the word or just join it together. When you have this letter in the middle of a word, then you have three different possibilities. We have these two sounds that are already familiar, s and z, and then we have this pesky sound which doesn't come naturally to Spanish speakers. I think it has come up at some moment in the course, but we're going to have a look at it now, okay? Typically, whenever you find in spelling two S's, so the pronunciation is going to be just the normal S sound. For example, you say that this room is very messy, like Lionel Messi, Leo Messi, it's the same. Messy, messy. Or you can say that Natalia is very bossy, and it's the s, normal s sound. No problems there. Or regressive in grammar, you can talk about regressive, something regressive. Okay. We do have two exceptions here, which we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about this later. And if you need to cut a piece of paper, you use a pair of Sorry. Ceases. So you have the first is voiceless and ceases. Can I have a pair of scissors? However, when you have in spelling, if you have a vowel and then any of these possibilities, many times with words that come from Latin or from French, and you will see why I say that. In words like this, which sound very much like Latin, like words we have in Spanish, la visión, la decisión, algo visual, it's exactly the same. Or this comes from French, le plaisir, okay? So in this case, we have this sound, which is a bit pesky. Okay, can you make this sound for me? Sorry. Okay, it's not that. This is easy to do for Spanish people. This is voiced or voiceless, what you're doing now? Voiceless. This is voiceless. Okay, so what I'm asking you to do now, it's exactly the same, but voiced. So imagine you're going to do this, but before... Okay, can you do this? Shh. Come on. Yeah, what do you do to kids? Yep, this is the sound you made. That's excellent. So imagine you're going to do this, but before you release all the air in your mouth, you somehow stop. So you want to do this, but you stop before that. You wanted to do this, but you can't, because it stopped before. And then you have the vibration here. Yes and no, because if you want to make the voiced version of S, what you do is if you want to do this, it's more. Yeah, a bit more close maybe. Yeah, but definitely the place in your mouth where you articulate each sound is different. In the case of you for example, you say, or you talk about vision, yeah. You talk about pleasure, not pleasure, yeah. With others, for example, it's exactly the same. Television, yeah. I do have to say that Americans are not that strict with that sound, and maybe the way they pronounce this sound is closer to sh. So maybe that will lean you towards the Americans. I don't know. So with this sound and another one we'll see in the next session. In American English, there's not such difference. In British English, there is just a small difference, but there is. Okay. A couple of words, well, 3 words that you probably know how to pronounce, but just for you to, I don't know, to be aware of exactly every single sound. Okay, when you think about a place which is very hot and you can get lost in, this is the desert, with a voiced z sound, and the stress at the beginning of a word. Desert, the Sahara Desert. Yeah? Or for example, Survivor is a TV show where 15 people or 16 or whatever are left stranded on a desert island. A desert island. Okay? Okay, you have another word which is spelled exactly the same, but it means something different. Because the desert is a noun, it's a place, and this is a verb. So, for example, imagine there's a period of war, and we are forced to go to war, but then you say, no, I'm a pacifist, I don't want to fight. So what you do is you read what you have in here. The stress is on the second syllable. Desert. Desert. Okay? Desert the army. Yeah? Okay? And exactly the same pronunciation, but different spelling. My favorite part of a meal is the dessert. Dessert. Okay? By the way, I'm just thinking of it. When you use this word, is, or when you use this, was. How many times a day can we use these two particular words? Probably the reason why we have to pronounce this part of a meal in that particular way, it's because it's of French origin. So they try to imitate the stress of French. That's why they use the stress at the end of a word, because they want to try and imitate it, probably. Okay? And then in here you have the proper spelling of these words. Okay? Okay, can you remember? Scissors. This is one of the examples where some people might pronounce the R. A standard RP wouldn't pronounce the R in this case, but anyway, up to you. Okay? Even if you pronounce it in an American way or even in a Scottish way, and you keep the R, because the R is voiced, then you have to use a voiced version of things. Okay? And this is the moment where I'm going to try and give you some rules to know exactly how to pronounce final S's. Okay? It might sound complicated, but then it's not that complicated. I'll try to make it as easy as possible. And this is going to make a lot of a difference in your pronunciation. The same way as Spain versus Spain, from Spain. Yeah. Oh. If this is what we mean by inflectional. If the reason is a grammatical reason, there's a rule that you can apply and it works all the time. That's the only time I think I can say that. So we will find out about the rule. If the last S in a word is not related to grammatical reasons, it's just there because the word ends in an S, it tends to be pronounced as a normal S for us. Most of the times, maybe not always, but most of the times, it's just a normal S. Like, for example, when you say bus, kiss, atlas, phonetics, which is just one word with an S, like the science, phonetics, happiness, business, syllabus. Does everybody know what a syllabus is? Yes, of course. You're sick and tired of writing syllabi for your classes. Anyway, so these S's are pronounced with the Spanish S. Yeah, this is the tendency. Not 100%, but the tendency is that you're going to pronounce them with the Spanish S sound. Okay? And if they are, if the reason for an S is grammatical, let's see. Okay, we're going to concentrate, as I was saying, on plurals, possessives, and the third person singular for the present simple. And we have three different possibilities. It can be It can be z, it can be is. But there's a rule, I promise. And you can understand the rule. Yeah, trust me. I try to teach this to my year 1 students. I try. I don't know if they understand, but I try. Okay. Think, for example, of a verb. Or think of a noun in the singular. That's what I mean by the base form, the basic word. So if the basic word, if the base form, the last sound, not the last word, sorry, not the last letter, if the last sound you pronounce is voiceless, it's a voiceless consonant, so it has an influence on how you're going to pronounce that S in spelling. So it'll be voiceless as well. If the last sound is voiceless, it'll be the voiceless version, except for this. And you will understand why, obviously. Okay? The second thing, exactly the same, just by contact. If the last sound you pronounce is a voiced consonant, or a voiced sound, just a vowel, yeah? If you have a voiced sound, then just by contact, this is going to become voiced as well. Yeah? And I said there are some exceptions. All these sounds. We have the exceptions here, s, sh, ch. Or we have z, j, j. Yeah? So in these cases, we have to add in pronunciation and in spelling, we add is. Okay? I'll show you some examples in a moment. You have a word like book. How will you make the plural? Books. And that's it. Yeah? Because the last sound you make is voiceless, so just by contact, the S is voiced as well. Books, books. Okay? Think of a verb, for example. We're going to use the verb to hum. You know what to hum means? Yeah? Or to not properly sing, but more or less. Yeah? If it's a song, you don't say the lyrics, you just sing the tune more or less. Yeah, I'm humming a tune. So the last sound we pronounce is So if we want to say he, yeah, hums, exaggerating of course, hums. Just because of the contact, if this is voiced, yeah. Or the same thing happened before with one of the examples we used. Exactly. The verb play plays. We have a diphthong, just a vowel, yeah. Plays. Yeah. He plays a very important role. He plays a lot of games. Plays. Okay? Okay, and let me give you another example. We have these special sounds. We have s, sh, ch, z, j, j. Okay, imagine a word like, for example, imagine something like watch. A watch. Imagine if we applied the rule, we would say, sorry if I spit on someone, I tried to do it here. If we only add an S, we would do something like watch. The English language is very polite. It doesn't want to spit on people. So, because it will be too complicated to articulate these two sounds together, then the language naturally adds this vowel, which was never there. It's added just to be able to pronounce it. Okay? Otherwise, these sounds, all these sounds together with an S, would be too complicated to pronounce. Imagine, for example, an orange. You said orange. No, you say oranges. Yeah. So, because you need to add, just, it's something natural. Because this vowel appears in pronunciation to link these two sounds that together would be a bit embarrassing. It's because this is a vowel, then you have the voiced version. Okay? And you know all that? When you have these plurals, you have to add in spelling. Yes, you know that already. So when you have to add in spelling es, the pronunciation will always be is. Okay? What I'm going to do, I'm going to write the last sound you pronounce in the base form, and then... So the last sound you pronounce is that. Blades. 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 Okay? Books. That is tricky, but that's exactly how you pronounce it. Yeah. Buses. There were lots of buses at the bus stop, for example. Yeah. Okay, that's it. You talk about one bridge, two bridges. Yeah.
Games.
Okay. Which? Sorry? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Games. Games. We say laugh.
Without?
Yeah, it's voiceless. So, 1, 2, or 3. What do you think?
Number 1. Lives. Laughs.
Okay.
Okay.
If you have something voiceless, then that's it. Laughs. Oh, he laughs all the time. Laughs. Yeah. Okay, we're going to have a look at the difference between word number 6 and word number 7. Okay, Vanessa, can you do it for me, please? Yeah, you have this face, you're not really sure. Okay, the trick here, and that's why I wanted to make the difference, is that in word number 6, the last sound you pronounce is an and it's voiceless. However, in number 7, the last sound you pronounce is exactly that sound, but voiced. Move. So? Moves. Because in English, this particular sound is articulated exactly the same as an but voiced. Yeah? Moves. Something in the way she moves. Okay, Joanna. Sorry. So, if you make this sound, nothing happens in your throat, it doesn't vibrate. So, months. I spent 3 months, and these two sounds, voiceless. Months. Okay? No, you were right. I think you knew what you wanted to say, yeah? Washes. Washes. She washes her hair every day. Or he washes his car every 3 years. Or whatever. Washes. Washes. Okay, Giovanna? It's voiced. Yeah, so you will say wardrobes. 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 Okay. The last sound is a ch, like Spanish che sound or letter. Ch, ch, ch. So, watches, watches. Like she watches the game, or he bought 3 watches. Yeah? Okay, Cristina?
Kites.
Yeah, the last sound we make is a t, t. Voiceless, so kites, kites. Yeah? Is there anyone I haven't asked? Because I don't remember now. Come on. Okay. The last sound you make is O. That's much better, yeah. Toes, toes. You can especially hear this sound when you have vowels, when the last sound is a vowel. Toes. From my head to my toes. Yeah? And finally, someone I haven't asked. When we have, and this is what I mean by possessives, you remember those Saxon genitives when you talk about John's car, or when you talk about George's guitar, or when you talk about Kate's brother. So the rule applies exactly the same. So what you have to do to know how to pronounce this tricky S here, you have to treat it exactly as if it was a third person singular for the present or a plural word. So for example, this one here will be John's car, because the last sound is voiced. So we'll have to say John's car. Okay? You will talk about George's guitar. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to pronounce it properly. Okay? George's guitar. And you will talk about Kate's brother. Because you say Kate's brother. Okay? It's the same idea. The same rule applies. So this is what we've said. So now in your pairs, I would like you to take turns to read these 4 sentences, to have this in a bit of a context. So you have 4 different present simple forms. So just for you to be able to read those in context, not just in isolation. So how would you pronounce the present simple form in these sentences? As a summary for today, if you need to remember the basics of today, remember 97% of time, so most of the time anyway, when you have an initial S, it'll be tss, that's it, with the only exceptions maybe of sugar and maybe some others, but that's it. In middle position, we have some words, like for example messy, bossy, where you pronounce the S and that's it. Some of these have the Z sound, and some words probably taken from Latin or from French maybe, like vision, pleasure, television, visual, all these things are pronounced with these a bit strange. And then if you have the S at the end, if it has to do with grammatical reasons, if it is inflected, you have to follow the rule. When you have voiced sounds, you use the voiced one. When you have voiceless, you use the voiceless one. Or if not, if you have t, s, s, so you have to use, okay? And if you have an S just because the word ends in an S, doesn't have to do with grammar, probably. It'll be bus, happiness. It'll be a normal Spanish S sound, okay? To link, because this is a whole sentence and it has to be linked together. So, for example, we can link all this. My smile, still. And then this would be voiced, but because we have the next sound which is voiced as well, it's really voiced. My smile still stays on. My smile still stays on.